and thank you for joining us today. I'm Charles McDonald from Alef Trust, and today I sit down in conversation with Helen Holden from Creative Alternatives, pioneering arts-based centre specialising in care within the Merseyside region. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today, Helen.
You're very welcome, Charlie.
Now, Creative Alternatives has been supporting communities for nearly a decade, beginning in Sefton before establishing its current programme in St Helens and later adapting to online delivery during the COVID pandemic. Could you talk us through how the programme has evolved over time, including what was learned from the Sefton experience and how that shaped the St Helens service, particularly in the post-COVID landscape?
Yeah, so it's actually we've Creative Alternatives was first started actually in 2006. So it's nearly 20 years that it's been in existence for, which was amazing. But the St Helens program and service started in 2015. So which is when I joined Creative Alternatives myself. So we're in our 10th year of running the service in St Helens, which is fantastic. The fact that we're still in existence after 10 years is also brilliant, particularly because we have faced so many challenges within that time frame, and we learned a lot from the programme when it was running in Sefton, but it has changed somewhat in St Helens. Just because we're a smaller service.
Yes.
But what that means, we're a quality service as well. So we're quite a small team of freelance staff who work within the team or within the service. And I think what's helped us stay in St Helens for 10 years is having a kind of consistent program for people to be involved with. So some things have changed a little bit. Our venues have changed over the years. We've had to move around. We were originally in St Helens Central Library, and that closed a few years ago. So we've moved about, and we've changed how we deliver the program slightly. In that when we first started, it was a 12-week program, and that was it. It was kind of set in stone as being 12 weeks for people.
Yes.
But we have adapted that so people can now either join for 7 weeks or 12 weeks. So there's a choice according to the need of the person. And then it won't feel like they haven't completed it if they couldn't complete the 12-week program originally. It felt for some people like that was a failure, and the last thing we wanted to make people feel is that they weren't succeeding in any way, particularly because it is there for people who are living with anxiety, depression, and stress. So it's really helped that we've had a kind of a constant within that 10-year time frame, and we went online, as you said, during the pandemic, which was quite a feat for us because we'd never done anything online prior to that. Everything had been delivered face to face.
Yes.
But particularly during the COVID pandemic, we felt that was crucial that we took our service online, and that we kept people who are vulnerable and isolated anyway. We're feeling even more vulnerable and even more isolated. So we felt it was our kind of duty of care to do something to keep people connected, to keep people's spirits up, to keep people being creative, and to try and keep them well during a very, very stressful, and I think the whole world felt like it wasn't the people of St Helens, but Creative Alternatives did our best to help people navigate through that challenging time.
It was a very dark period indeed. Now, Helen, how does the arts on prescription model function within creative alternatives? And what do you see as its core strengths compared to more traditional and clinical mental health interventions?
Yeah, so for us, arts on prescription is basically offering people a social model of care really for their mental health and well-being. So it's less about the illness and more about the person. So we see people first, and then the label of depression or anxiety or mental ill health is almost secondary. We very much acknowledge how challenging it can be for people living with those conditions, and we truly empathise and support those individuals who refer into our service to make them feel seen, to make them feel heard, to make them feel understood, um, and less alone in what they're going through. And I think as soon as we start to build that trust with our participants, that in itself makes a big difference for them, because they don't feel like they're being analysed or judged in the same way that make clinical mental health services treat people. And we're not saying people shouldn't get clinical support for their mental health. What we do at Creative Alternatives can either be complementary to clinical help that they're getting, or it can be instead of, because not everybody might need clinical interventions. But equally, as we're not suggesting people come off their antidepressants as soon as they start taking part in our service. That would be, far too dangerous and damaging for those people. But I think just knowing that actually, when you do get to know someone and you can understand why they'd need a service like ours, listening to people, giving them the time to get to know them, it often you get a real sense of it's not just about the fact that they feel low or they feel anxious. It's why they feel low and why they feel anxious or why they feel stressed.
Yes.
And that in itself just gives them that breathing space to think, someone cares about me. So whilst creativity is at the heart of what we do, it's certainly not the be all and end all to what we do either. We want to make people feel like everyone can be creative. It's not just an exclusive type of art form, or like you have to have studied art or creative writing. Yeah. It's a very inclusive program as well. So, but that can take time to build people's confidence up.
Yeah. Now, with regards to building the programme up, could you describe how the creative facilitators develop the programme and blend expressive arts like creative writing, visual arts and sculpture alongside mindfulness and self-care strategies?
So yeah, the programme, it's, as I said earlier, it has evolved, but in essence, the core creative elements are come out of things like trying to find things that people can connect to in real life, I suppose. So a lot of the inspiration for the creative projects through our creative facilitator team are things that are about nature or the natural world. So they're themed, so that might be a project linked to a season of the year, or it could be to do with water or colours in nature. And then the artistic mediums change from project to project. So depending on when someone joins our service, they will get to do something quite different. So it's not, even though it's an arts on prescription service, it's not overly prescribed, in that we change the themes, we change the artistic mediums. Okay. The writing is almost woven into some of the sessions as well. So in that respect, when people start to do the creative elements of our program, they start to become mindful in the sessions as well. So the mindfulness element is also incorporated into the creative activities, in that people become very focused on what they're doing with their hands. It takes them out of their heads. They are, that idea of like being creative alongside other people as well, and they're not on their own. That has a real that really transcends in our sessions, so that people feel very connected to each other, but they're also there as an individual. They're there as themselves, and we try to celebrate that and not try and change them. And we also do some mindfulness, and it's in a more pure sense, if you like. At the start of every session, there's a short mindfulness meditation that's usually focused on breath work and maybe just helping people to relax, to come into the space, to feel more present. So it can really calm someone down if they're feeling particularly anxious. But equally, the way it's delivered by the team is it can also energize some people who come feeling very, very low on energy. So it's quite, it's mixed up and it's varied, and each facilitator delivers it in a slightly different way. But in doing so, what that does is it gives people the kind of the skills and understanding that mindfulness doesn't have to be about clearing your head and forgetting about everything. It's also about tuning in to your own body, to the noises that we hear, to the smells that we that are in the room, that the sounds that you can hear. So it's those subtle things sometimes that can really help people then with their own self-care outside of the sessions. And then the creative elements are giving people inspiration to know what they can do at home to keep themselves well.
Yeah, and also the support and companionship element. Now, with regards
Absolutely.
to people who actually sign up for this very powerful program, what criteria must someone meet to be considered to take part in creative alternatives? Typically, how do people get referred? Is it through professionals, self-referral, and what kind of people access the service?
So we have our referral process, means that people can either self-refer or they can get a professional referral. So it gives people the choice, because for some people, they might not know about our service until one of the local healthcare providers or GPs or counsellors or therapists might suggest it to them. So then they would get a professional referral. But equally, we promote our service throughout St Helens, in local libraries and community centres, and in other ways as well, so that people know they've got the autonomy to join in their own right, in the sense of they decide for themselves. So they're making that choice for themselves, which can sometimes, be exactly what they need. But it also takes a lot of courage to do that, and confidence. So I think having two different routes in certainly gives people options depending on where they're at in their own mental health journey. And then in terms of what then happens is, I will get in touch with that individual. I usually speak to them on the phone, first of all, to introduce myself, tell them a bit more about what we do, maybe get a better sense of who they are, why they've come to our service, what their needs are. And then they'll be invited to a taster session so that they can come and meet us in person. Again, get a better idea of what it is that we do, because people can have a perception of what creative alternatives might be in their heads. And then it's much easier to show them, it's much easier to get a sense of when they're in the room with us. And then after that, they can decide whether they'd like to participate in either the 7 or 12-week programme. So, and then once they're on the programme, there's weekly sessions where they're coming to Helen's Town Hall, with the same group of people. We have groups on 2 different days a week with the same group of people throughout their journey. Again, helps to build their kind of confidence and relationships, which are really important, friendships, which sometimes come out of it. But the types of people that come into our service are completely different. It is for people over the age of 18, so it's for adults, but there's no upper age limit. So over the 10 years, we've had people of all ages that have come into the service, and it just shows that mental ill health and mental illness affect anyone at any point in their life. So what that then means, though, is we get a really nice mix of people in the room at any one time, people with different life experiences, people with different backgrounds, different genders, just different, I suppose, the personalities that come through, and that in itself also makes us maybe different from other groups where everyone's kind of like, it might be an age group that why people come together, or a particular interest. Well, obviously it is an interest that people have in creativity, but I think it makes it a more diverse mix of people in our groups at any one time, and people learn from each other and form friendships that they might never have had the opportunity to if they hadn't have joined.
Would you share some of the evaluation findings with regards to the patients feeling better about themselves that demonstrate the programme's impact on the participants' well-beings? For example, do you have feedback or quantitative data showing the benefits? And what's the most rewarding feedback that you generally hear from the participants?
Yes, so we do. We have different ways of evaluating our service and the participants who refer into the service. Some of that uses wellbeing monitoring forms. So we use what's classed as the SWEMWeb's wellbeing scale. So people would fill that in at the start, at the middle, and at the end of their journey with us. So we can kind of take the data from that as to whether they have those scores have improved. And generally speaking, in the 10 years that we've been in existence in St Helens, the average improvement on the scale is around about 5 points. So our target is 3.5. That's one of our KPIs, and generally speaking, it averages out between 4.9 and 5. We do it as an average score when we submit all our kind of annual reports.
Yes.
We also use a lifestyle or a lifestyle questionnaire. So that again is looking at some of the wider health and social factors of whether that being part of the service has changed. So things like smoking habits, diet, drinking, alcohol consumption, antidepressant usage, GP visits, along with social and like mental well-being questions as well. So overall, like we tend to get relatively high scores coming out of those questionnaires to show that people's overall lifestyle has improved from taking part in the programme. But I think for us, more than any score or any form or those kinds of evaluation methods, for us, it's what we see, and it's also what people tell us. So the qualitative feedback is probably the most important thing to us delivering what we do. That again, we're very conscious and very mindful of people having to fill in a lot of forms when they're struggling with their mental health. So, and we're a non-clinical service, so we really try and do our utmost to be transparent as to why we have to use the forms that we do. But equally, as I say, the other ways we evaluate is by listening to what people are telling us during the time that they're taking part. We do have like what we call a moving forward session at the end of the time on the programme. So that's a great session to get their verbal feedback as to what it is, their self-reflection for their own journey, what they've enjoyed about creative alternatives, what they'd like to do next, what it is that, what ideally that they go on to keep themselves well. And we do we ask some participants if they'll do a longer written testimonial for us, so that we get a little bit more of an in-depth kind of monitoring, or that's probably not the right word, but an in-depth story of their journey with us. So we've got some brilliant quotes, but some of those individual testimonials really tell us what a difference it's made to their mental health and well-being and their confidence. It's restored their faith in services who are out there supporting. A lot of people have had really negative experiences up until that point. So when we hear things like, oh, you've been the best or best service or best thing for my mental health that I've ever experienced, it just makes everything so worthwhile. And we feel honoured if people have feel like that. It's also a little bit sad as well in some ways. It's like, to think people are struggling so much even with support, but it's absolutely heartwarming and makes my job, as I say, so rewarding and so meaningful to think we've had a positive effect on someone's mental health, and that they've made either new friends, or they've found themselves again, or it's been a lifeline for people. We hear that comes out a lot in our evaluation and feedback.
Now, you actually have indeed been a lifeline for a lot of people, and Creative Alternatives, as a result of this, has received awards such as the Northwest Public Health Award and Team of the Year. How have such recognitions influenced the programme's sustainability, credibility, or funding opportunities?
I think it just reinforces that for us as a service, that we are doing our best during really difficult times and financial times, and where services can get cut very easily. It just helps us to, I think, to have that consistent funding, like I said before, from St Helens Public Health Service and the Arts and Library Service in St Helens Council, is really amazing, and we don't take that for granted. It's not something we're certain of every year that we are going to get awarded the funding to continue what we do. So I think any kind of, not that we're looking for awards, we're certainly not about that kind. We're not that kind of service where we're setting out to get accolades. The biggest award that we can have is, as I said, what our group members and participants get out of it. But obviously it strengthens our credibility and the quality of what we do. And we obviously always have to look and ensure that we're sustaining that quality of our service, and we don't want to change things for the sake of it, but we certainly need to be aware of what people's needs are, and try and be responsive as well.
So you mentioned a very good point there, that the biggest award you could have is the involvement and the happiness and the well-being of your participants. With regards to your participants being involved in the actual programme, are there ways for people to give feedback, to co-create activities, or to perhaps use their experience to influence the future direction of Creative Alternatives?
So in some ways we've struggled a little bit with that in St Helens, in the sense of we've not been able to develop, up until now, we've not been able to develop a volunteer programme, which is something we're really keen to do in the future. And I think having people involved with lived experience and helping to shape a service is so important, particularly when it is around mental health and well-being. And I think we are always listening to what people tell us in our during our sessions, and also when I connect with people individually. It's really invaluable to make sure that we know that what we're doing is actually helping people, and we're not just assuming that is the case. So we would love to, in the future, develop more of a peer support program and a volunteer program that runs alongside our core provision and our core service. But absolutely, in terms of like, again, going back to a previous question around evaluation and feedback, we listen very closely to what people tell us during that moving forward session, and we try and do our best to take that on board. And as I say, it's challenging at times, challenging because we are such a small team, and challenging because the funding has stayed and remained relatively similar to when we started in St Helens, but we are looking to hopefully secure some additional funding to be able to grow the programme.
Looking ahead, what are your ambitions for Creative Alternatives? Are there plans to expand, to revisit the online programme, or to innovate into new creative modalities?
So yeah, just carrying on from what I've just finished with on the last question, we would love to be able to grow and build on what we've done in St Helens for the past 10 years. I think there's absolutely a need for us to be able to do that now. So we will be looking to try and get some additional funding to make sure that we are providing a more diverse range of creative activities for people to choose from. Not everybody necessarily wants to do like visual arts, and even though it's non-traditional and it's not technical, not everyone wants to do visual arts or writing. So it would, and also it's thinking about the different interests and needs of potential future participants as well. So diversifying the art forms that are currently on offer, and partnering up with some other organisations in St Helens as well. So we're not just working alone, but we're utilising some of the other people who are delivering services that aren't the same as ours, but could be complementary to ours. Like I say, it'd be brilliant to have a volunteer programme. This is something we've talked about for a little while now. So if we can get some more funding to bring volunteers, so that we can actually not just volunteers and bring lip service to them, but we can look after and care for and train our volunteers. So that's something we would love to do, and also to develop the skills of some of the people who come into our service, because again, sometimes perceptions are that people with poor mental health, don't have any skills or qualifications, or that, and it couldn't be further from the truth with so many people. So it'd be fantastic to capitalize on some of the skills and enthusiasm and talent that people have within our service as well. So some peer groups and groups that are kind of offshoots of our core sessions, to allow people to really thrive and grow themselves beyond, because for a lot of people, they do say, we wish we could stay for longer than 12 weeks. So it would be wonderful to be able to fulfill that in the future as well.
And finally, Helen, how does it make you feel having delivered and managed the service there for 10 years?
Oh, honestly, it makes me feel so proud and humble to have been at the helm of the St Helens programme in St Helens, in Creative Alternatives for the past 10 years. I honestly love what I do. I think I've stressed that quite a lot, but it's just so fulfilling on so many levels. Having personally been affected by anxiety myself in the past, I think that really helps me to connect with people, because it gives me a little bit of an insight, and not that any two people are the same, but I know how hard it can be, and it's not all in people's heads. It honestly isn't. So I think just showing people that there are other ways to feel better, and to build yourself back up, and to grow, and to know that, you know, there's people up there who genuinely care, that in itself is enough to keep me going for another 10 years, hopefully, and to be around such inspirational people, and to have the support of my colleagues, both in Creative Alternatives and Alef Trust, and in St Helens Council as well, because collectively together it's a joint, it's a team effort. But I love being able to drive it, and to keep it going as what it is. I picked up the baton from a wonderful team in Sefton, and there was so much that had been established there. And Jessica Bockler, who's our director, she put so much of herself into that program when it was in Sefton. So I've grown personally along with the Creative Alternatives program, and long may it continue.
It's great. Well, I personally cannot wait to see what will happen in the next 10 years, especially as we're approaching and promoting the World Mental Health Day next year. And given the state of the world just now, I think services like yours are needed more than ever. Thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. It's been a pleasure.